Okay. Morning. So what we have done in what we have seen in the last class. So we were talking about multiple access control, right? Or it can also called as media access control. Fine. So in the last class, we saw under multiple access control, we saw different types, right? So Aloha, CSMA, CSMA CD, correct? CSMA CA. So now we'll move on to the next topic here, that is controlled access. So what is this controlled access? So controlled access, as the name itself says, each and every station here consults another station in order to check whether it has a right to send data, correct? So each station, what does it do? It just consults another stations and check whether it is okay that they can send the data. That is controlled access. So under controlled access, we will discuss three topics, that is reservation, correct? So the three methods over controlled access, one is reservation, polling, and token passing. Okay, we'll see all these three methods in detail. So what is this reservation access method? Reservation access method, as the name itself says, we are reserving something, correct? So each and every station make a reservation before sending a data. Okay, so that is what reservation access method is. So I will repeat, each and every station do a reservation before it actually sends a data. So what happens here is a time has been basically divided into intervals. In each and every interval, a reservation frame, okay, reservation frame should proceed before the data frame, which means you will send a reservation frame. Preceding this, we will send a data frame. This is clear? So look at these diagram here. If you see here, there are how many stations? There are 5 stations. So it actually, if there are n stations in the system or in the network, then n reservation slot should be present. Okay, if there is n stations, so n reservation slot should be there, or you can also call it as mini slots. Fine. So for n reservation, so in this example, how many stations we have? 5 stations, correct? So 5 reservation slot should be here, the one which is represented here. If you see here, 1 2 3 4 5 is a 5 reservation slots. Fine. So this frames has to be sent first, followed by this, or preceded this, you are going to send the data. So if you observe the one which is represented with one, you are indicating whether I am sending a data from which particular station. So here 1 represents I am sending a data from a station 1. 0 represents no data from station 2. 1 represents station from data from say station 3. Some similar way. So in the first time interval here in this example, what happens? The data is been sent from station 1, station 3, and station 4, correct? So this is a reservation frame. Preceding this, we are sending a data from station 1, data from station 3, and station 4. This is clear? Similar way, in the second interval, only data from station 1 has been sent. So reservation frame should send first, following which you are going to send the data from station 1. This is clear? So this is what actually meant by reservation access method. So what is reservation? You are each and every station should reserve should make a reservation before it sends up actual data. This is clear? Okay, so the next method under controlled access here is polling. So what is this polling? Polling actually it basically works with something called it works with topology. Here there are various stations. Any one of the station will be designated as a primary station, and the remaining stations will be considered as a secondary stations. Okay, so any one station we are designated it as a primary station. So what is this primary station and what is the secondary station? Is primary station is basically it has been used whenever all the exchange data exchanges must be made through the primary station. Is this is clear? So all the data should be exchanged through a primary station. Ultimately, should reach to the destination. That can be a secondary device. What does this primary device or a primary station will do? It basically controls the link, right? The transmission link. It basically controls the transmission link, whereas the secondary devices follows the instruction from the primary device. This is clear? Fine. So now, so in case of polling, we use different functions here: poll function and the select function. Okay. Why these both functions are used? It is used in order to prevent the collusion. Fine. So select and poll functions are used in a polling access method. These both functions are basically used to prevent the collusion. Fine. So now can you just guess what is a disadvantage or a drawback of a polling system? Because we know there is one centralized system called primary station. That station should control all other remaining stations, which has been designated as a secondary station. The major drawback of this polling access method is whenever the primary station fails, obviously the entire system goes down. Correct. So that is one of the major drawback of a polling access method. Fine. Now we'll talk about these two functions, select and poll functions. Fine. So what is the select function will do? Select function, when will we use the select function is basically whenever a primary device has some data to send, some data to send to the destination. Correct. So whenever a primary device has some data to send, we will use a select function. Uh, so if you observe here, there is a frame called SEL frame, correct? So before actually sending a data from a primary device to the secondary, any of one of the secondary device, it actually transmits a frame called SEL. So what is this SEL? SEL is nothing but select frame, correct? So it transmits the select frame to any one of the secondary the station. So that particular station should acknowledge back. If you get the acknowledge, then only the primary station, if the primary station gets the acknowledgement, then only the primary station sends the data. So again, after receiving the data, the intended destination should acknowledge back. Correct. So here you should know what is this SEL frame. SEL frame is nothing but whenever a primary station as something to send. So it sends us SEL frame. Here SEL is nothing but select frame before sending the actual data. So is this concept is clear? Fine. So the next we should talk about poll function. The poll function is basically used for the transmissions from the secondary devices, transmission from the secondary devices. Suppose say for example, we already know in polling access method, the primary function, all the transmission should happen through primary function. That is what we told, right? All the transmission should happen through primary functions. So we need to check the poll function is basically used to whenever the primary station is ready to receive a data, it must ask each and every device in order to send the data if it is ready. See, primary device, if it is ready, it should ask each and every devices, in the sense the secondary devices, to ask to send the data, because I am ready to send the data so that I can forward to other stations. So how will this will be done by using a frame called poll frame. Okay, POLL, poll frame. So it sends a poll frame to each and every device. So for in this example, if you see, it sends a poll frame to a station A. Station A, if it does not have any data to send, it returns a NAK frame. It is negative frame, correct? So NAK frame, it sends a negative frame. Whenever a primary station receives a negative frame, which means that there is no data to send from that particular station. So now what does it do? Whenever it receives a negative frame, it should send a poll again to the another station, the next station, that is B. So send a poll to the next station, that is B in this example. So if B has some intended data, okay, if it has some data to send, so it sends the data. So the primary station should acknowledge back for that data. Is this is clear? So I will just repeat this concept. So whenever a primary station is ready to send the data, ready for a transmission, it should send a poll frame to all the devices in the system, correct? So in this example, initially it sends a poll to a station A. Station A, if it does not have any data to send, it returns a NAK. NAK is nothing but a negative frame to the primary station. If a primary station receives a negative frame, which indicates that there is no data from that particular station to send, correct? So now what it should happen, now what it should do, it should send a poll frame again to the another station in the system. So in this example, B is the next station, so it sends a poll to the station B. Now what will happen, the station B, if it has the data to send, it sends a data, correct? So if it sends a data which indicates it is a the positive response, it is a positive response. Whenever it receives a positive response, which means acknowledge back to that particular data frame, correct? Is this concept is fine? So under polling access method, we have discussed about two functions, select function and the poll function. Clear? Fine. So now we'll go for the next method over here. It is a token passing. Fine. Under controlled access, we have done with reservation, we have done with polling, and the next concept is token passing. What is this token passing is nothing but token passing is nothing but the station in a network. Okay, the stations in a network, you have a number of stations, correct? All these stations will be organized in a logical ring. So if you observe in this diagram, it is it has been arranged in a logical ring. It is logical, not physical. You're not connecting all the devices in a ring fashion physically. It is just a logical ring. This is clear? Okay. If it is a logical ring, obviously each and every device will have its predecessor and the successor. Correct. So for example, for B, the predecessor is A, the successor is C. Correct. Similar way. So each and every device will have a predecessor and the successor. Uh, so what does happen here over here is there is something called a token, a packet called a token, which has been passed over all the stations. Okay, a packet called token has been passed to all the stations. If suppose a station A has a token frame, which indicates that this station has a rights to send the data. Is it clear? So the station has a rights to send the data. After sending a data, it passes the token to the next station in a ring fashion. So it sends a token to the token frame to the next station. Token frame, whenever a station B has a token frame, it should send the data. It keeps on circulating among, goes in a ring fashion among all the stations in the network. Suppose if A has data to send, but C has a token, so it should wait for its turn until it receives a token. Clear? Also, this is how a token passing network will work. Okay, token passing network will work. What it keeps on it will be in a listening mode. Whenever it gets a token, it sends a data. This is clear? So this is all about token passing. This example, so it waits for a token. When it captures the token data, is there any data frame to send? If there is a data, send a frame. If there is no data, you just release the token, okay, for the another station to send the data. If there is a frame data to send a frame. Then wait for allotted time. Each and every station will be allotted some particular time. If the allotted time is expired, then release the token. Otherwise, keep sending the data. This is clear? So whenever a token whenever a token is there with some particular station, it keeps on sending the data until the time expires. If time expires, it passes on this token frame to the next station. Okay, so this is how a token passing network will work. Okay, so under this. There are various what you can say, there are something called logical ring. Okay, so what is this logical ring is, say for example, you have different stations over here, correct? Different stations, something like the station 1, station 2, station 3. This is nothing but a physical ring. Okay, this is nothing but a physical ring. In a physical ring topology, what happens when a station sends a token to its successor, the token cannot be seen by the other stations. Whenever a station sends a token to the another station, it cannot, the successor cannot, the other stations cannot see the token. Um, so the token does not have any address of the next successor. So the problem with these particular type of topology is that if one of the links, okay, that is nothing but a medium, fails, then the entire system fails, because it does not know. Say, so for example, in this case, if this fails, if this particular link fails, it does not know where to go, because they don't have any address. So then the entire system fails here. So this is nothing but a physical ring topology. Is this is clear? So you need to know various various concepts. um, Correct. So I already told there is we are talking about physical links. Four different physical topologies can create a logical ring. Correct. Four different physical topologies can create a logical ring. A ring. So what are these four different physical topology we are discussing? First one we discussed just a physical ring. Correct. We discussed about physical ring. So what is this physical ring? In a physical ring, whenever a station sends a token to its successor, the token cannot be seen by the other stations. Correct. It is, what is the successor now? It is just one in a line. So one after the other, one after the other. If one of the line goes, the entire system goes here. So we have done with physical ring. So the next topology over here is a dual ring topology. So dual ring topology, dual ring topology, here it uses a secondary ring, or you can also call it as an auxiliary ring. So what is this auxiliary ring? It is something like this. So whenever you have different stations, say 4 stations, it is been arranged in this order, ring fashion. Correct. So dual ring is what? It is in the opposite direction. Correct. We already saw what is dual ring when we discussed about the topology, ring topology. Correct, in your first module. So ring topology. So even the similar way, so dual ring topology, which operates in a reverse direction compared with the actual the ring, which happens in an opposite direction. So when will we use this second ring, that is auxiliary ring over here, is whenever there is whenever the main ring or whenever the main link fails. Correct. So whenever this main, when we consider we are using this direction, that is clockwise direction, the auxiliary ring works in a anti-clockwise direction. Correct. So whenever a main ring over here fails, then we are going to use a auxiliary ring. Is this is clear? So that time we will use a dual ring topology. Fine. Next one is a bus ring topology. So what is this bus ring topology? Bus ring topology is it's similar to this. So in case of bus ring topology, you have a, you know how the bus works, correct? You will have a central hub. Similar way, even here you will have a central hub. So what is this? How this bus ring topology looks here is, bus ring topology looks something like this. You have different stations. Correct. You have different stations. So this will work logical ring over here. You have a central I mean, not hub, sorry, you have a central bus, centralized channel. So the data will, in the stations connected to a long, this is a long cable called a bus. The similar way here, you also, you have a long cable, which has been, I mean, all the other stations will connect to a long bus, to a long cable called a bus. Okay, so the next one is star topology. So star ring topology. What is the star ring topology? Star ring topology is nothing but similar way. Instead of bus, you will have a central hub here. So what is the central hub here? When it is nothing but an connector. Correct. So it acts as a connector between all those things. Whenever a station wants to send the data, it needs to send the data to the hub. So now the hub will take care of sending the data to the another station. So what is the disadvantage here? Obviously, whenever the hub fails, the entire network fails. Correct. So even your there are various disadvantages and disadvantages which we have discussed in star topology. Same applies here also. Fine. So what are the four physical, four different physical topologies that can create a logical ring? Correct. Four different physical topology which will create a logical ring is, one is physical ring, dual ring topology, bus ring topology, and star ring topology. Is this concept is clear? So you should know all these four topologies. Fine. The next, that is concept under media access control is a channelization. So what is this channelization is all about? Channelization is a multiple access method, correct? So it is also a multiple access method in which the bandwidth, whatever which has been available, is shared between, or it is shared in different ways. It is shared in terms of time, in terms of frequency, or through a code. Okay, between different stations. Is this is clear? So what is this channelization? Channelization is nothing but a medium access control, or a medium access method in which the available bandwidth of a transmission link is shared in different fashions, like it can be in terms of time, in terms of frequency, or in terms of code between different stations. So according to this, it has been divided into various subdivisions, like frequency division multiple access, where that frequency, the bandwidth is shared based on the frequency. Then time division multiplexing and code division multiple access. Okay, time division multiple access, code division multiple access, frequency division multiple access. Fine. So now we'll go on to the topic called frequency division multiple access. So what is this frequency division multiple access? In case of frequency division multiple access, the available bandwidth here, correct? So the available bandwidth is divided into various frequency bands. Clear? Am I clear? So available bandwidth is divided into various frequency bands. So for example, if you see a data one, we are going to use this particular frequency band. Here we will use the second one. So for the third one, we will use this. For the fourth one, we will use this. Correct? So different frequency bands has been given over here. So it has been sent across the, it has been sent across the transmission medium. So here, if you observe, how will you prevent the interferences over here? Correct. There are, there are all the frequencies at the same interval of time can uh, hap- can actually interfere with each other. Correct. In order to prevent that interference, we are going to use a small guard bands here. If you observe here, there is a small gap between each and every frequency over here. It is a guard band. So what is this guard band? It is a nothing but predefined frequency band for that particular entire period of communication. Is this is clear? And this basically is been used. It is in an access method which has been used in a data link layer. It is basically used in a data link layer. Is this is clear? So how this frequency division multiple access will work? So frequency will be divided among each and every stations, and in order to avoid the interference or interference with each and every the particular frequency, we are going to have a guard band between each and every frequency. Is this is clear? So this is how FDMA will work. So next we will go the concept called TDMA. So time division multiple access. So what is this time division multiple access? Here the stations, the bandwidth, correct? The bandwidth of the link is being shared among each and every stations based on the time. Clear? So each and every station is allocated a particular time slot during which only you can send the data. So which means first interval we'll allocate for data 1, next data station 3, station 4 and 5. So only in that particular time you're going to send the data. Each station transmits its data in its assigned time slot. Each station should transmit the data only in its assigned time slot. This is clear? Only in its assigned time slot. This you understood, right? So if you see here in this first interval, we are only this, so yellow represents seconds. Only in this particular time, each and every station sends the data. So now what is the main problem with the TDMA is in achieving the synchronization between the different stations. Because the same concept we discussed in the previous topics also, where there was, if say for example, we don't know which is the starting, which is the ending time, correct? So here also we will avoid this, we will have a synchronization for between the beginning of the slot and the ending of the slot by using something called, or by inserting something called guard times. Okay, so because in order to to compensate the delays, we will have a guard times. How will we accomplish the synchronization here? By having some synchronization bits. Okay. Is this is clear? So what is this time sharing? Time division multiple access. Time division multiple access. It is basically where the time has been divided among, or the bandwidth of the channel has been divided, time shared between different stations. Time has been shared, right? Time shared between different stations. Um, so after time division multiplexing, the next concept is CDMA. Correct. So what is the CDMA? CDMA here is a code division multiple access. So as the name itself says, the correct. As the name itself says here, the communication. Okay, I was discussing about code division multiple access, correct? So in case of code division multiple access, the communication happens here with different codes, correct? For example, if there are 10 people in a room, if you want to talk privately, okay, you can talk in the language which you know, which others don't know, correct? If only two people know English, if they don't understand English, you can talk in English, so which makes your message private, correct? The same idea has been used over here also. Okay, consider example, this example. Here we have four stations, correct? One, two, three, four stations. Fine. So all these stations are connected to a same channel. The data from a station one, okay, the data from a station one are D1, data from station 2 are D2, D4 and D3 respectively for 3 and 4, right? So the code assigned to each and every station is C1, C2, C3 and C4 for all the stations respectively. We assume that whatever the sign codes which we have assigned as some properties. There are two properties for each and every code. First property is if we multiply each code by another, we get 0. For example, if you multiply C1 with C2, you should get 0. If you multiply C1 with C3, you should get 0. Any code, if you multiply, you should get 0. If we multiply each code by itself, we should get 4. Okay, 4 here indicates the number of stations. In our example, because we have only 4 stations, it should the multiply C1, I mean, multiply code C1 with C1 itself, so it should give us 4. So the code should be in such a way that if you multiply the code with itself, it should return the number of stations. This is clear? So these are the properties each and every code should have. Am I clear? Okay. Now let us assume all these four stations starts communicating the data. Station one, okay, station one. So say station one multiplies its data by itself, by its code to get D1 C1. Okay, so it multiplies code C1, so it will get D1 C1. Similar way, all other stations multiplies itself with the code. The data that go on to the channel are the sum of all these terms, which has been shown over here, right? So the data, whatever which has been sent, it is not saying data alone. Along with that, you are sending a code also. So D1 C1 plus D2 C2 plus D3 C3. The addition of the sum of all these respective terms. Correct? Clear? Any station, if it wants to communicate a data to the other station, so what does it do? What does it channel by multiplying the code to the sender? For example, if D1 wants to send the data to the D2, correct? So what does it do? It multiplies that particular data with the code itself, the code C1. For example, if for example, if you want to send the data, if a station one wants to send the data to the other station, what does it do? It multiplies the entire data with the code of that station C1. For example, suppose in our example, if you see here, this is a particular code. So we need to multiply everything with code of a station one because station one is sending the data. So multiply it with C1. So what will you get now? So D1 C1 into C1 plus D2 C2 into C1 plus D3 C3 into C1 plus D4 C4 C1, correct? As I already told, if the code multiplies itself, correct? If the code multiplies itself, it should return 4. So this will return 4 or data with 4, correct? So this will return data with 4. So this will return 0 because multiply with other code should return 0. This will also return 0. This will also return 0. So what has been left out over here? It is only the data here, correct? Only the data from that respective station, because we know data from the station one is been sent. Is this concept here is clear? So this is the basic idea behind the code multiplexing, code division multiplexing. Am I clear now? So each and every code here, okay, each and every code here has some sequence of numbers called chips. Okay, each and every code has some sequence of numbers called chips. So I will it represent, for example, for this, let it be 1 plus 1 plus 1. Okay, so plus 1. So how many numbers you require over here? It is 4, because 4 stations. If you have n number of stations, so it is n number of chips, or n number of bits also, you can say. Correct. So is this concept is clear? Okay. So what happens over here is, for example, for this it is plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 for all this 4. Now it is 1 minus 1 1 and minus 1, something like this. For this, let it say 1 1 and minus 1 minus 1. Let this, for this, let it say minus 1 plus 1 plus 1 minus 1, something like this. Correct. So each and every sequence is made up of how many elements? Each and every sequence is made up of n elements. So what is this n elements here? It is the number of stations in a given network. Correct. So if we multiply this particular sequence by a number, every element in a sequence has been multiplied by that number. For example, if you are multiplying it with 2, each and every element in that particular sequence should be multiplied with this number. So plus 1, all everything will become now 2 2 2, right? This is one condition. If we multiply two equal sequences, element by element, and adds the result, that is how the multiplication between two sequences will happen. This is something called inner product. Correct. So this is something called inner product. For example, if you want to perform multiplication, something like this. Correct. 1 minus 1 and minus 1, multiply it with 1 1 something. I will take the same thing, or something like this, or something like this. Correct. So if I multiply the same code with itself, I already told you it should return 4. In this example, it should return 4, or the number of stations. So 1 1 1 into 1 1 1 into 1 1. So minus 1 into minus 1 is again plus 1. Minus 1 into minus 1 is plus 1. So which will give you 4. So what is this 4? 4 is the number of stations in this in our example. Correct. So if you multiply two equal sequences, you should get 4. If you multiply two different sequences, you should get 0. Correct. Let us take an example of two different sequence with two different stations. 1 1 minus 1 minus 1. Another sequence I will take 1 1 1 and 1. Correct. So 1 1 multiplication is 1. This is 1. This is minus 1 is minus 1. Minus 1 into minus 1 is minus 1. Addition of these will give you what? 1 plus 1 is 2. Minus 1 minus 1 is 2. So which will give you 0. Correct. So if you multiply the sequence with any two different sequences, you should get the value result as 0. If you multiply the same sequence with itself, you should get the value as 4. Am I clear? So this is how a code code division multiplexing will work. Is this concept is clear? So this is just one example what I have shown. Fine. So the next question will come over here is, how will we generate this sequence? This can be done by using something called Walsh table. There is something called Walsh, WALSH, Walsh table. So this Walsh table is been used to generate, which is a two-dimensional table with an equal number of, obviously equal number of rows and columns. Correct. So Walsh table. In a Walsh table, how it works here is, each row is a sequence of chips. Each row is nothing. Each row is a different chips, right? So how will it work here is, the W1 for one chip sequence has one row and one column. We can choose either minus 1 or plus 1 for that particular chip. Okay, for this to write it into a table. Okay, I will just give you some example and I will explain the Walsh table. So it looks something like this. So W1 is nothing but the entry for that particular one. You are multiplying it with 1. So W into 2n. Okay, I will just explain what is this in detail. So you have Wn. So you have Wn over here, and you have Wn and Wn bar. Okay. So will you get, so if W1, if you say, for example, if W